it's going to be interesting to see when AI gets more heavily applied to robotics, how well it could do with these like unique and frequently changing tasks. I don't know if it will be able to handle it or not. My hypothesis is it will, just because of how fast things are progressing in other areas. Like, I don't see a reason why it won't be able to progress in the next 6 to 12 months in those areas as well.
Work is changing quickly, irreversibly, and often invisibly. I'm Chris Fanchi, and this show is about understanding where it's headed and how we stay human in the process. Hello, and welcome to Human Work After AI, the show where we explore the future of work, technology, and what it means to stay human in the age of AI. We're speaking with founders, technologists, and thinkers who are navigating the shift toward an AI-powered economy. Today's guest is Zakary Smith, a mechanical engineer turned innovation partner who's helped launch over 100 products across industries ranging from aerospace to healthcare. He's worked on everything from the Tesla Model 3 battery pack to pandemic-era ventilators, and now leads SensFlo, a company blending AI, predictive analytics, and industrial IoT to help manufacturers maximize uptime and lifetime value. Zach, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. I'm really excited to be here and talk with you today.
So, I always like to start with my guest's origin story. What first got you interested in technology, and what led you to work on the various projects that you did over your career?
Yeah, interesting question for sure. Mine goes, I think, way back, to be honest. I remember I was in elementary school and I had a science project and I worked with my dad on it. And it was seeing the rate of decomposition of different materials. So, like, we put biodegradable, non-biodegradable. I didn't know at the time it was like biodegradable, non-biodegradable. Put it in the ground, and over the course of time, we saw like what happened to that material. Did it disintegrate? Did it stay as is? And just like watching that scientific process like happen before my eyes just got me really interested in like science and mathematics, it's like STEM ultimately. Yeah.
So how did you then get into technology? What led you to that path once you entered college and then the workforce?
Yeah. So my dad, who I did a lot of learning with growing up, he has a web development, like marketing company. So that was always an option for me to like go work in the family business. My sister is running it now and doing an awesome job, but wasn't like, as we just went into, like, that wasn't my area of interest. Like, I was super passionate about engineering. So I went and chose my own path, studied engineering, have worked as design engineer, process engineer, manufacturing engineer across like a wide range of industries, but ultimately really got the experience on the factory floor, like making real things. I uh, love technology, but I love the interface between like the physical and the digital world ultimately.
Did you always want to be an entrepreneur and run your own business?
Yes, definitely. I didn't always know how I would get there, but it was definitely something I always wanted to do. Um, I've done it in different capacities. Earliest of taking food out of my parents' pantry and selling it at like food stands on the street. We had an ATV growing up with a plow on it. So I'm from New York originally. I live out in California now, doing snow plowing for neighbors, did driveway sealing, and used Google Maps to do digital quoting. So always had the entrepreneurial itch, and it wasn't until about 5 years ago I got to really pursue it with regard to what I like trained for in university and had experience for in the workplace before starting the business.
So talk a little bit about that. Through your early career and some of the things that you worked on, how did that lead into what you're doing today? How did you use that experience to identify the problem that you're now trying to solve?
Yeah, so there was definitely an aha moment at one of the jobs I was at. So the company is Start Rapid. It's an amazing company. They do rapid prototyping and production manufacturing. They're a contract manufacturer in the plastics and metals space. CNC machining, plastic injection molding, both polymer and metal 3D printing, post processing, so like painting, anodizing, powder coating. They make like beautiful parts for a variety of different companies and projects. And one of the things that I noticed was the objective of efficiency with regard to manufacturing. So, how you quote something impacts how it gets scheduled, and then how you execute on that work really defines on time delivery, labor costs, and profitability for an organization. And I think just seeing how some of the technology stacks they had and some of the supplier base had, and that there's room for improvement there. I saw that there was untouched opportunity with regard to running a highly efficient production. And I have to say, Star Rapid does an amazing job of it. They're, I think, at the peak of what like efficiency is for a factory. But as you go on a global basis, like it's a very wide bar for like efficient versus non-efficient production manufacturing.
So give us the elevator pitch then. What does SensFlo do from a high level? How would a non technical, non manufacturing person understand what you're working on?
Yeah, I'll give you the non-technical version of it. So factories have equipment, and that equipment alongside humans that are running them makes parts, right? They make the goods, all the goods around us. So what SensFlow does is it uses industrial IoT, so Internet of Things devices, data collection on the machines, alongside collecting data from other software systems to help identify opportunities to run more efficiently. We typically break this down into three methods. You have how much is the machine working, your utilization, the efficiency, is it getting things done in the time that you thought it was supposed to? And then a layer deeper at the process level, like are things running consistently from part to part? So we use artificial intelligence, automation to help companies run their businesses with the latest and greatest technology.
So, where are you at as a company today in terms of size and market penetration?
Yeah. So we're deployed in Canada, US, Mexico, the UK, Africa. I have a project in Ghana and also in Taiwan. We have new projects starting up in Bolivia, Argentina, some in China. And we have about 2 dozen factories right now that we're working with across several hundred machines and several hundred users of the software.
How do you identify your target user, target companies that you want to work with?
Yeah, so we found we could best support factories that have at least, 10 minimum, but typically 20 pieces of industrial equipment, businesses that are about, 5 to $100 million a year in revenue. That's when we deployed like the machine monitoring alongside the AI. We're finding that a lot of the larger enterprises might already have a digital transformation plan in place where they've connected their equipment and their software and things are like nicely structured in a database, but they are not using AI still. So for the larger companies, we're seeing a more rapid deployment feasibility with the AI because of the investments they've already made towards digital transformation.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that. Like how quickly are is the manufacturing industry adopting AI and how much of an impact has it made thus far?
So I think in general, industry compared to consumer, like is 10 to 20 years behind the technology stack, like at scale, right? So from a market penetration perspective. So I think a lot of the like we're at the forefront of the development of those tool sets, but I think the usage and the consumption is barely touched at this point.
And have you seen it growing in the past, and particularly looking at the past 12 months? Because it feels like we have hit some kind of a tipping point, especially at the beginning of this year, where it seems like more and more companies are adopting it. Are you seeing that in the industrial manufacturing space?
Yeah, definitely on the adoption, but also on the ability to deploy certain feature sets. Like we had requests for certain feature sets like 6 months ago that we turned down because it was too aggressive on the development requirements, but based on how quickly AI tool sets and the ability to deploy them are, we've been able to take on those projects and deploy them in days in something that would have taken like months to develop.
How has that changed since you first started this company? Where was the AI at when you first set out to start SensFlo compared to where it is today?
Yeah, it's a big change. So we're a bit of a hybrid model on the AI side. So we developed a lot of our core AI in-house, especially on the machine learning side of things, and also on the tuning side of things. However, we always go through like a make or buy decision with AI now. A lot of companies will do this, like even on like components of a hardware product. Like, should we make it or should we buy it? And then build around it. So there's definitely a lot of great AI tool sets available that we are able to integrate and then tune into our overall product. Whereas I would say several years ago when we started, we had to build all the AI ourselves. We're now going to pick and choose a little bit more what we build versus what we buy and tune.
Do you think eventually you will stop building your own AI and be able to rely on other models, external models, or is that something you want to keep just from a proprietary standpoint?
I think more the latter. We'll always build AI. I think we have expertise in manufacturing, know-how in manufacturing, and we're able to apply that to AI. I think some of the models that we've done on predictive scrap, predictive bottleneck, predictive pricing and scheduling, and the data that we put into those models is something that will continue to enhance through proprietary development versus like if you look at on some of the LLM side of things, there's billions of dollars of investment going into these. So that's more of a situation where we'll continue to adopt and tune around our use case. So we still have like expertise and know-how. It's still proprietary because you can't just put your data in and get the same results if you were to put it like in one of those chat GPT type systems versus using our system because the way it's tuned, but we'll take advantage of some of those new systems as well.
Do those Does the progression of those third-party systems help you with the development of your own internal AI?
Yeah, I think it helps our customer. I think it helps us serve our customers better. I think it allows us at a more rapid pace for a lower cost develop a wider suite of solutions by working with a diverse range of models.
So you mentioned that you're seeing adoption pick up among some of these legacy manufacturers. Do you feel like it's enthusiastic, or do you feel like there's still hesitation? They feel obligated to, but they're not excited about it, basically.
It depends who in the organization you would ask. So I think at the executive level of these organizations, they are excited. They're pushing for this, and I think there's a sense of fear at the lower level of these organizations, at like the operator and technician level. I think like job replacement and that type of fear is a real thing. I don't think it's an unreasonable fear, but I also think it's an important thing to address and figure out how to create an environment where it could support the organization and be a more of a resource than a deterrent from the workforce.
Are you seeing the executive suites of these companies take any actions to try to allay those fears that the workers might have about job replacement?
I think they're looking for ways to do it. I've been on some like job threads with some organizations that we're part of where people are like this, we just did installed this automation solution and we're getting a lot of pushback. Like, what do we do? Like, so I think people are wanting to address it, but I don't think they know how to like properly communicate it at this point. Yeah.
What are some common misconceptions that companies have when it comes to applying AI in physical environments?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the assumption that it'll just work like some of the consumer solutions. I think the ones that work really well at the consumer level right now, the reason it works is because it's generalized over a large like data set. So like the dollars of investment per user, like the cost models are there at this point. I think in our industry, like all of these companies have like a very wide range of equipment types, software stacks, processes. Like it's its own organism ultimately, right? Like it's like we're all humans using ChatGPT, but every factory is not like they're not of the same species ultimately. There's
Hmm.
no two factory the same. So in that sense, understanding that like there's it's a process like you get the technology to work as good as you would expect or as good as you're seeing on the consumer set, but there's some tuning and configuration that's required to get it to that point still.
So, excluding robotics, we won't get into that can of worms just yet. What are some things that you think, as of right now, there's just not a way for AI to handle it? A human still needs to be involved, still needs to be making the final decision or doing the work.
Another good question. On the robotics side, that would be easier for me to answer. I mean, to be honest, I'm not gonna say I could think of something right now. Like everything that we've been asked to do, we can develop with AI those requests. Everything from automating data entry from one system to the next, predicting prices and times. In that sense, I would say though, it would be more on like the supervised learning side where it still would need a human sign off. Like the AI could do
Mhm.
its thing, but we still would look for feedback from the human on the tuning side. But eventually the necessity for the human to review it goes away with enough feedback back into the system.
So, talk a little bit about the robotics side. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Then,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'll mention Elon Musk. He's obviously gets talked about a lot, but I'm kind of fascinated by what has been tried in the past and what they're doing now with some like Optimus. So just like over automating something can lead to problems. And a lot of like most manufacturers are not large, they do discrete manufacturing, like they're very specific in nature. So it's going to be interesting to see when AI gets more heavily applied to robotics, how well it could be do with these like unique and frequently changing tasks. I don't know if it will be able to handle it or not. My hypothesis is it will just because of how fast things are progressing in other areas. Like I don't see a reason why it won't be able to progress in the next 6 to 12 months in those areas as well.
wow. What are some tasks that you see AI implementation within manufacturing opening up or making available? That's commonly the refrain when it comes to AI replacing workers is that, well, it'll just enable them to do more. It'll let them work on things that previously kind of went unattended. Are there things like that in manufacturing that you're seeing people shift their focus to now that AI is taking some of the menial stuff off the tape?
Yeah, so I think the question is, as AI takes over certain areas, are there new things that humans might do ultimately?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a huge progression with regard to AI doing a lot of things in a factory environment. So you have material handling, part changing, like material cleaning. There's just there's a lot there. So then the question becomes where and how do humans spend more of their time, right? And
Mhm.
in my opinion, it is in those areas that the AI can't still do, right? So it's on the more, I think we're going to see is a lot more focus and budget being applied to some of those more computational intense things. So it could be the designing of the equipment, the programming of the machines, problem solving, right? So it's like it's going to mess up. So what happens to the production line or the machine when the AI just gets stuck and can't do something? You're going to need someone to come in and fix that problem ultimately. I think like upskilling and training is going to be really important as we see some of the more medial type work being done by robotics and automation.
manufacturing companies trying to be proactive about that upskilling and trying to teach and train their existing workforce on new tasks that are more focused on essentially supporting the AI as opposed to doing the tasks that they previously did?
Yes, I think the companies are, and they're happy to do it. And I had a discussion with a group of manufacturers on this recently, and the consensus was ultimately it's going to come down to the individual, though. Like if you have a growth mindset or not, right? If you're someone that's kind of happy just going and doing your 8 to 12 hour shift, you're happy collecting your paycheck, and you're not interested in progressing beyond that, it could be very challenging for that, right? Like, I don't know what's gonna happen with, like, the job pool and opportunities there over time. If you have a growth mindset, I think it's an op I think there'll be employment expansion in those areas, investment from companies for people to progress into that. So, yeah, that's kinda how I see that playing out, but there definitely is a lot of support on the upskilling and the training, and factories still can't get enough skilled labor right now, even with all the robotics automation. Like there's more jobs in that could be filled right now by people.
Do you think that a person, if they decided to go into that kind of a skilled labor kind of approach, if they started now, they'd have a career at it? Or do you think that we're headed towards a point where robotics would overtake them before they could get the value out of that skill?
I think skilled labor opportunities will actually expand. To be honest, I think if you look at skilled labor, I'll put kind of in quotes skilled labor, like right, someone that could be trained on the job. It's still an important skill, medial versus skilled labor that's a lot more sophisticated in nature, right? There's technical nuances to it. It requires a diverse skill set. I don't think those are going to be replaced. I think like the kind of the area of like the plumbers and the electricians, but applied to like the factory floor. So like working on controllers, the mechanics of machines, like that type of skilled labor is only going to increase with time, and there'll be more job opportunities there because of the progression of AI and automation. I don't see like self-maintaining machines on the factory floor. So if you have more automation or robotics on the floor, there's going to need to be people that are still servicing that over time.
Have companies that have implemented some of these AI solutions seen a market improvement in things like safety on the factory floor?
With regard to safety, I would say yes, more around the machine design than AI in that sense. I mean, there's been sensors and protocols around for quite some time, but in these industrial applications, you get too close to a moving part, it's going to be dangerous for sure. Yeah.
So, what are some of the ethical considerations that you take into account when building systems that directly influence job roles or machine behavior?
Yeah. So one of our like core values as a company is transparency. People, and that goes both ways. So like if something is being monitored or a specific data set is being leveraged in a certain way, everybody being on like a complete understanding of what that data is and how it's being used. The other thing is there's no like omission of what data is available or who it goes to within our system ultimately. So what we try to do is make sure everybody has access to the information. Like there's flat access through the data set. So everybody's working on the same data. And that actually drives a lot of collaboration within the organizations instead of creating a useful data set and only allowing like some person to have it helps. I have on my screen right now, like, I get to see the real time status of a piece of equipment, right? And like it's like obviously the manager can get that, but that sits on the factory floor. So the operator can see in real time how they're performing, and like the machine's running 94% utilization. They're producing more or less at the efficiency rate that they need. They see how many parts are being produced. So it's providing like the useful information to everybody simultaneously.
Yeah, that's great. So, say we were to fast forward 5 to 10 years, and I know that's never been harder to do, it seems like, to look ahead. What does a smart factory of the future look like in your mind?
Um, Part factor of the future is interoperable. I think that's the first thing. Going back to there's no two factories alike. I think to be a smart factory, you need common communication, like data layer between equipment, software, and people. Once you have like the free flowing data and information, uh, then that's where the AI could really enhance what's going on. And then that could be used on both the like the robotics and the software side. I think part of that interoperability is you understand where your efficiencies and inefficiencies are, right? So you could only be as efficient as the weakest link in the operation. So it doesn't make sense to automate everything if something's taking 10 times longer over here. You can only produce as quickly as the slowest operation. So I think it's more about a continued progression of a continued improvement, but not full blown complete automation because there's going to be a cost to automate. And at some point, it still is more efficient to be semi-automated for most companies. I don't see like 100% automated world. So it's more about knowing where they're like knowing where to automate up to and like that there's a fine line there and using the data systems to support that and then leveraging the AI and automation in those specific areas. That's what the smart factory of the future looks like to me.
Okay. So it's not going to be robots building and maintaining other robots who are going to be running all the factories and
I think at volume there will be that. I do think that certain factories will have that and it will make sense. And that goes back to like this smart factory will be ran differently than this smart factory based
right.
on what they're producing. Unless like the cost of one of those systems just becomes so low and so capable, then yeah, then everything could automate. But I don't think it's gonna get like that. But maybe it will. I don't know. I don't think so. It very well could. From an imagination perspective, definitely could see a robot like being able to do everything a human could do and more. How quickly that will happen, I don't think it's in the next 5 to 10 years per se. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Well, where I'll let you finish with this. So, where do you see SensFlow going in the next 1 to 2 years as you're embracing this technology and expanding as a company?
Yeah. As a business, we've invested really heavily on the ability to collect and structure data for use. So we've have a really good handle on collecting data from any piece of equipment, software, or person at this time. And we've developed some really cool and functional AI models on top of that. I could tell you in your factory based on the technology we built, like how long something actually takes and what you should price it at based on that information. Um, I want to be able to really bring a consumer level experience into the industrial manufacturing world next. I think we're just at the cusp of the AI supporting the entire value chain of manufacturing. So right now we have really good tool sets for the individual manufacturer, but how do you create not only interoperability at an individual factory, but across multiple factories and the supply chain as a whole? So that's what we're focusing on next is automating the entire life cycle of a product from the recycling facility to the material mill to the part production, to the assembly, to the logistics. It's a big problem to solve, but I think if done right, it could streamline and that efficiency is not just at the production level, but in the supply chain as a whole.
Fantastic. Well, Zach, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you tell everyone where they can find you and learn more about SenseFlow?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I really enjoyed the conversation too, and I hope we could check back out on where these things have progressed in the next year. It'll be fun to see which predictions were right and which were wrong. But yeah, you could find us at sensflow.ai, SENSFLO.ai, or connect with me directly on LinkedIn. It's Zakary, Zakary Smith at SensFlow. You'll be able to find me. So Yeah, thank you for the time and the support. I really appreciate it, Chris, and love what you're doing and helping people guide this new and exciting technology.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thanks to everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, found it fascinating, please be sure to share it, subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, and leave us a review. And until next time, stay human. Thank you for listening to this episode of Human Work After AI. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.